This season has seen Red Bull and Max Verstappen dominate in a way that even Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton rarely achieved. You could put it down to Max's incredible driving, or to Ferrari's terrible decision-making, but that would be unfair. A large portion of the credit really needs to go to the Red Bull factory team, who have created a wickedly fast car. But what is it about the RB18 that is so good? What are the design choices that Red Bull made that made them so good in 2022? Let's find out. While the RB18 has been amazing, credit has to be given to Max Verstappen as well this year. After a controversial first championship against Lewis Hamilton last year, Verstappen has blitzed his rivals in 2022, and a run of 5 straight wins before the Singapore Grand Prix means that all he has to do in Japan is beat Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez and the title is his. Verstappen, having won 11 out of 17 races, is also right on track to beat the record of 13 victories in a single campaign. A good friend of the Red Bull star Lando Norris joked that his season has been easy, and that he should maybe have a go in our car and see what it's like, with McLaren only 4th in the standings. But in the interview, Norris also spoke of his admiration. He's done amazing, Norris told Sky Sport F1's Naomi Schiff. Very impressive, of course. He's one of the most talented drivers ever to come into Formula 1, one of the fastest. No doubt he's going to win his 2nd this year, and most likely go on to win a few more in the future. As Lando says, Max is a once-in-a-generation talent, and of the current crop of drivers, it's unlikely any of them will be able to challenge the success he will go on to achieve. Will he ever be as good as Hamilton? Well, only time will tell. But this season, he's an absolute cut above the rest, and he has the RB18 to thank. But what is it about the RB18 that's made it so domineering? Before we dive into that though, I need to ask you a question. What did you do while waiting for the delayed Singapore Grand Prix to start? Did you tidy up? Maybe you did some dishes. Or perhaps you just listened to the F1 commentary team talk about the same stuff over and over again. All of those things were the wrong thing to be doing though. What you should have been doing is playing Raid Shadow Legends. What I really like about this game is the Doom Tower. This massive tower is basically a giant prison, where really nasty bad guys are locked in. To climb to the top, you're going to need an army of champions. A couple of bosses need specific mechanics to beat them, like the Scarab King. He takes barely any damage unless you reduce his max HP, and if you attack him without a shield buff on, he'll wreck your entire team really fast. Red Bull aren't the only team dominating at the moment. Raid Shadow Legends are as well, thanks to a giant new feature, Awakening, and a brutal new dungeon, the Iron Twins Fortress. If you're good enough to take down the Iron Twins, you'll see a huge payoff, being able to awaken your champions to transform how they perform in battle. But wait, here's the big news. Raid has just released a super-powered legendary version of everybody's favorite champion, Death Knight. Everyone can get him for free just by logging in. All you have to do is log in and play Raid for 7 days between now and October 27th. You can also use the promo code DKRises for a bunch of free items to instantly level your new strongest champion all the way to level 50. And if you haven't started playing Raid yet, click my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Tayrul, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you there. But let's get back to the video. A Formula 1 car is far more than just one piece of engineering genius. It's a symphony of small pieces working together in harmony to achieve the incredible performance needed to compete in F1. We're going to break down just a few of the things that have made the RB18 the fastest race car in the world this year. Starting off with probably the biggest change to the regulations this year, the floor. The new regulations have put even more of an emphasis on the performance of the floor and diffuser, with sensitivity to changes in ride height adding importance to several aspects of its design too. An example of this would be the Mercedes W13 that is incredibly sensitive to ride height changes. If the team is unable to get it low enough to the ground, the car just stops performing. The increased complexity of the floor, diffuser, and its ancillary components has also resulted in a weight gain relative to before, something that teams are constantly looking to reduce in an effort to reduce lap time, without compromising durability. This was a problem for Red Bull early on in the season, but they've been able to get a control of the RB18's weight, much to Max Verstappen's delight. Motorsports.com and Giorgio Piola did a piece of analysis on the RB18's floor recently that highlighted some interesting points. Since the start of the season, Red Bull have had the most complex floor by far. It has a large number of small details that showed they'd spent time analysing their aero models, both in the wind tunnel and in simulations, to find any advantage they could. This was a stark contrast to Mercedes W13. It appears Red Bull took some inspiration from the regulations that were introduced in 2021, which resulted in the Z-shaped cutouts ahead of where teams were required to taper the rear corner of the floor. Just ahead of this, there is a horseshoe-shaped cutout, which also creates a split level in the floor, with the shorter section behind situated at a different height and with an appreciably different contour to that ahead of it. The team has made an effort to optimize this portion of the floor on numerous occasions to improve performance both around the upper surface of the floor and side pod and the underfloor. To you and me, this floor edge appears complex, but we can't really know the full effect of each intricacy without having access to the Red Bull workshop, which obviously we don't. But we can guess at what the overall package is designed to do. The first role of the floor edge is to stop any air escaping the Venturi tunnels under the floor. Air bleeding out of the floor edge will decrease the pressure differential between the tightest part of the Venturi tunnel and the widest. Not all of the details will be designed with floor efficiency in mind though. Some of those features along the edge will be designed to direct air away from the rear wheels, either onto the beam or the rear wing, and some will look to move air outside of the tyres. The overall idea is to have the optimal amount of air travelling over and under each wing, then eject anything else outside of the rear tyres so it doesn't interfere with the rest of the rear end's aero. This eye for detail has extended to the underfloor and Venturi tunnels as well, as Motorsports.com and Giorgio Piola also pointed out. The design of the underfloor on the RB18 has several intriguing aspects, with the team not simply accepting what would be considered the conventional shapes and forms you'd expect the various elements to take. For example, the floor's front end, on the inner wall of the Venturis, has some unexpected contouring that works in conjunction with the forward strake. This is a complexity that isn't seen elsewhere on the grid, and again shows the team's attention to detail. We've since seen this design assimilated by Red Bull's rivals, along with the staggered boat-tailed design at the rear of the floor, whilst the ice skate solution first seen on the RB18 has since found its way onto the likes of the Ferrari F175 and Alpine A522. Of course, just having a complex floor does not guarantee success. Getting that floor close enough to the ground is just as important. Mercedes at the start of the season had an uncomplex floor, but were confident that if they could get it close enough to the ground, they could gain a second a lap in performance. That obviously didn't happen, because Mercedes didn't have the suspension built into their car to cope with the difficulties of running with a ground effect floor. Red Bull did though, as Motorsports.com and Giorgio Piola highlighted. Red Bull created a new normal when it came to the overall suspension layout that was in use for the last regulation era between 2009 and 2021. Since the RB5, the team adopted a pull rod suspension at the rear and push rod at the front. This was considered the best option, aerodynamically speaking, under that particular rule set, as all outfits settled on it being the best way to approach things. There were some outliers from time to time though, as the pull rod method was also tried at the front end. Having considered the impact of suspension on the new 2022 cars, Red Bull flipped the script for 2022, opting for a push rod layout at the rear to clear space for the enlarged diffuser, and pull rod at the front of the RB18. It is only McLaren and Red Bull that opted for this system this year, and there are good reasons for it. There are benefits and disadvantages to both systems, but before this year, no team was using pull rods at the front for aerodynamics and packaging reasons. The position of the front suspension components, sat as they are directly in the airflow coming off the front wing, means they have a considerable influence on that air as it heads towards the center and sides of the cars. Adjusting the position and shape of them can help move the air where it is most wanted, which is now into the underfloor tunnels. Theoretically, there are also benefits to mounting the springs and dampers on the underside of the chassis as you do with a front-end pull rod system. It allows the nose to be higher and thus giving a less obstructed path for air to the underfloor. This is an advantage for obvious reasons. You need more than good suspension to dampen the back-braking effects of porpoising though. In Red Bull's case, they use a Belleville spring on their bib tray to help lessen the effect. The rest of the teams have chosen other solutions such as dampers, coil springs, or leaf springs, but it seems that Red Bull have developed the most effective solution. The use of a Belleville spring arrangement not only allows for a compact installation, but it can also result in less vibration, just one of the factors that can be attributed to Red Bull's lack of porpoising and bouncing when compared with its rivals. We could have gone on forever pointing out more features on the RB18 that have made it the best car on the grid this season, but considering the new flaws have been such a talking point this season, we thought these the best to highlight. What's your opinion though? What do you think has been a standout feature on the RB18 this season? If you want to know more about what is going on in F1, then click the video showing on your screen and I'll see you there.